Good afternoon. Today's lesson is all about changing decimals into fractions and fractions back into decimals. We can look at fractions and decimals and understand both of them to mean the same number. So let's get started. The first thing is, let's look at a decimal. Let's say we've got the decimal 0.75. Okay? First thing we know is that is when we say that, it's said as 75 hundredths. Okay, so when we write that, we can write it as 75 hundredths. So we've taken a decimal and converted it into a fraction. Now we need to simplify that into the lowest terms. Well, let's see. I know that I can put 25 into there and 25 into there. So let me divide the top by 25 and the bottom by 25. So that's going to give me 75 divided by 25 is 3, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So 75 hundredths is equivalent to 3/4. Okay? Now, what if you had something a little bit different? What if you had 1.50? What would that look like? That's going to look like 1 and 5 or 50 hundredths. When you simplify that, right, we could divide this by 50 and this by 50, and we should get a half. So this decimal written as a mixed number would be 1.5. We've converted a decimal to a fraction. Okay? Now, let's go back the other way. I'm going to pause for a moment and give you some time to copy this down. Okay, now let's do the reverse. Let's go from a fraction into a decimal. These might be a little bit trickier. So I'm going to use that same example that I just used because I think that will give you a little bit more of a concept to connect. So let's say I have 3/4 of $1 left. Well, first thing you need to do is step 1 is make it equivalent to a fraction that either has a 10 as a denominator, 100, or 1,000. Remember, decimals are in tenths, hundredths, or thousandths. So when we're converting from a fraction to a decimal, our denominator has to be one of these, okay? One of these has to be the denominator. Well, let's see. I can go 4, factor that. Let's find the LCD. I'm looking for the LCD here. Okay? 4 and 10. Let's see. That's going to be a 2 and a 2. That's going to be a 2 and a 5. If I stack those, I'm going to have a 2 and a 2 and a 2 and nothing. This is the stack for the 10, I'm sorry. That's the stack for the 10. And a 5. Everybody gets to come to the party. So 2 here, times 2 here, times 5 here. All right. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Can we use that? No, because it's not in decimal form. It has to be a tenth, 100, or 1,000. So now let's change that and see if we can get something that works for 100. Let's see, I know it's 2 times 50. And I know that 50 is 5 times 10. I've got a prime and a prime. And let's see, what about, this is going to be factored into 2 times 5. Prime and a prime. So let me restack now. Still got my 4. So I've got, for my 100 stack, I'm going to have a 2, this 2 and this 2, and another 2. and then I have a 5 and a 5. And I'm going to bring them down. 2, 2, 5, and 5. Let's see what that equals. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 10 is 100. Ooh, that's a new LCD that we can use because my denominators have to be 100. So I'm going to make it equivalent to 100. And now we're going to do our Z. 4 goes into 100, 25 times. 3 times 25 is 75. So 3/4 of something is equal to 75 hundredths. And we write that as 0.75. Okay? I'm going to give you a moment to look at that. I'm going to come back with one more example of a more difficult fraction to convert. Okay, now let's try a little more difficult one. Okay, remember our steps are, we must first make the fraction equivalent to something that has the denominator of tenths, hundredths, or thousandths. So let's say I have 3/8. And what is that in a decimal form? Well, let's go ahead and see if we can factor these out and find our LCD. We know that 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. Well, we should know that 8's definitely not going to go into tenths just because of our number sense. So now let's think about 8 into 100. Well, what are our factors for 100? Let's do 4 and 25. Those are good numbers to go. 2 times 2, 5 times 5. All right, let's see what we've got. If I stack those, 2 times 2 times 2, stack 100 with it. 2 times 2, oops, don't have another 2, times 5 times 5. Let's see what this equals. This 2 comes, this 2 comes, this 2 comes, this 5 comes, and this 5 comes. So we're going to have 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. Well, let's see. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. Is that right? 40 times 5 is 200. Is that one of our denominators that we can use? Nope. So, let's try 1,000. Let's factor out 1,000. Well, let's see. I know it's going to be 2 times 500. I know that's going to be 2 times 250. That's going to be 50 times 5. Oh, I got me a prime. 50 is going to be 10 times 5. I got another prime. And we know 10 is 2 times 5. And I'm down to all primes. So now let's stack. Stack for my 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. Stack for my 1,000 is going to be 2 times 2. I got that 2, I got that 2. There's another 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. Ooh, let's see what that is. 2, 2, 2, 5, 5, and 5. All right. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 5, which is 40. 40 times 5 is 200. 200 times 5 is 1,000. So our new LCD is 1,000. Yay, we got one that matches what we have to have in the denominator. So now we're going to go 8 goes into 1,000. How many times did it go in? Well, let's figure that out. If these were our factors for 8, what do we multiply 8 by to get it up to 1,000? 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So 8 must go into 1,000 125 times. 125 times 3 is 375. So we would write this 3/8 is equal to 375 thousandths. 375. That's how we go from a fraction to a decimal. Remember, fractions are really part out of whole. So what that really means is that's another way of dividing. When you want to do that, you divide the bottom into the top. If we were to take a calculator and divide 8 into 3, we'd have gotten 125. Okay? Take a moment to write these down. We'll work on this in class tomorrow. Have a great evening, and make sure you understand your notes.